Imagine walking into an upscale grocery store named Draeger's Market in Menlo Park, California, where researchers have set up a beautifully arranged tasting booth displaying 24 different flavors of exotic gourmet jam. This exact scene unfolded during a landmark psychological study conducted by researchers Sheena Iyengar and Mark Lepper, designed to test a fundamental belief that defines our modern consumer world. You probably believe that having endless options gives you complete freedom and ultimate control over your life. But what happened next at that tasting table reveals a deeply unsettling truth about your daily struggles. When the researchers displayed 24 flavors, a massive 60% of passing shoppers stopped to taste the samples, proving that our brains are naturally magnetized by the glittering promise of abundant variety. But here is the bizarre twist that traditional economics can never explain. Because out of all those enthusiastic crowds who tasted the 24 jams, a mere 3% actually bought a jar. The next weekend, the researchers changed the setup to offer only 6 flavors, which attracted a slightly smaller crowd of 40%. Yet a staggering 30% of those people made a purchase. Think about that massive 10-fold increase in actual sales, because reducing the options down to a tiny fraction made regular, everyday human beings 10 times more likely to execute a final buying decision. This counterintuitive phenomenon is known as the paradox of choice, a psychological trap that is slowly destroying your mental peace, exhausting your willpower, and quietly stealing your happiness every single day. What most people never realize is that this exact mental glitch is currently being weaponized against you by giant corporations, and nobody ever warned you about the devastating hidden cost of this psychological design. I break down one critical psychological concept per video in plain English, so if you want to understand why you do the things you do, especially with your money, subscribe and turn on the bell. To truly understand why more options are slowly destroying your happiness, we have to look closely at a brilliant framework popularized by Swarthmore College psychologist Barry Schwartz in his groundbreaking research. Schwartz argued that while having 0 choices makes our lives completely unbearable, expanding our choices past a specific cognitive ceiling does not liberate us, but instead, it ruthlessly tyrannizes our fragile mental state. When you are forced to navigate an overwhelming ocean of choices, your brain has to expend immense cognitive energy evaluating every single feature, which rapidly triggers a state known as decision fatigue. Your brain did not evolve to compare 80 different television models, thousands of streaming movies, or infinite career paths, so it quickly runs out of behavioral fuel and defaults to complete paralysis. Before I get to the most counterintuitive part of how this choice engine completely ruins your relationship with money, let us first understand why every extra option feels like a profound personal loss. Think about the last time you sat on your couch scrolling through Netflix for 45 minutes, only to give up and watch an old episode of a show you have already seen 10 times. You are not lazy, and you are not broken. Because what you are experiencing in that frustrating moment is a direct manifestation of a powerful behavioral concept called opportunity cost. When you choose one specific path out of 24 options, your brain automatically calculates the loss of the 23 other alternatives, which makes the chosen item feel significantly less rewarding to your subconscious. Nobel Prize-winning psychologists Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky proved that human beings suffer from loss aversion, meaning the psychological pain of losing something is twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining it. Therefore, when a modern digital platform offers you thousands of options, it is simultaneously forcing your brain to price in thousands of micro-losses, which completely obliterates your satisfaction before you even make a move. Companies have known this for decades, and they use specific design frameworks to manipulate your behavior by structuring choices in ways that serve their bottom line while draining your wallet. Consider how Amazon revolutionized online commerce by patenting the famous one-click buying button, which completely eliminates the paradox of choice by collapsing the entire checkout decision matrix into one single physical action. Look at how massive fast food chains like Wendy's bundle individual items into predefined numbered combos, allowing them to rapidly clear lines and secure billions in revenue by saving you from menu confusion. If these corporations forced you to customize every single ingredient of your meal without guidance, your cognitive load would spike, your frustration would grow, and you would likely abandon your digital cart completely. What you must realize is that this exact choice overload does not just impact your shopping habits, because it silently leaks into the deepest, most critical areas of your personal lifestyle. This insidious pattern shows up when you try to select a career path, buy a home, or even navigate modern dating applications where you can swipe through thousands of potential partners in an hour. Psychologists tracking speed dating experiments found that when participants met 30 potential dates instead of 6, they drew significantly fewer successful matches and reported feeling deeply dissatisfied with their ultimate choices. At 30 options, the human brain can no longer evaluate deep compatibility, so it defaults to primitive, superficial heuristics like physical appearance, which completely undermines your long-term chances of finding true emotional fulfillment. Stay with me, because what I am about to show you in the next 2 minutes is the exact psychological mechanism that explains why your achievements never seem to make you happy anymore. When you have only 2 options, your expectations are naturally low. So if your choice turns out to be mediocre, you blame the world, but your personal happiness remains relatively intact. But when you choose from 100 options, your expectations skyrocket to absolute perfection, because you assume that out of such a massive selection, there must be a flawless result waiting for you. When the choice you make inevitably turns out to be ordinary, because real life is always imperfect, you no longer blame the store or the world, but instead, you turn that brutal blame entirely upon yourself. This is the dark reveal of the choice trap, because an abundance of options creates an inescapable loop of self-blame, inflated expectations, and chronic regret that makes you feel miserable despite living in wealth. Look at your own life right now, because you are likely wealthier and have more freedom than your ancestors ever dreamed of, yet you feel more anxious and paralyzed than ever before. You have been told that freedom means maximizing every single decision. But behavioral science proves that chasing the absolute best option is a direct formula for permanent psychological misery. Barry Schwartz divides decision makers into 2 distinct categories, and understanding which group you belong to will completely transform how you view your time, your money, and your personal worth. The first group consists of maximizers, who are individuals that absolutely must research every single alternative to ensure they are getting the absolute best deal, the highest salary, or the perfect product. Maximizers spend massive amounts of time comparing options, but because they are constantly looking over their shoulder at foregone alternatives, they suffer from chronic regret and lower overall life satisfaction. The second group consists of Satisficers, who are individuals that define their specific criteria beforehand, and the very moment they find an option that meets their standard, they stop searching and choose it immediately. A Satisficer does not care if there is a slightly better deal somewhere else in the universe, because their goal is not perfection, but rather a simple condition of excellence that saves their precious cognitive energy. Here is the thing, you can actually fix this right now by intentionally transforming yourself from a stressed-out maximizer into a peaceful, highly efficient Satisficer across your daily financial choices. To insulate your brain from choice overload, you must consciously restrict your options by setting hard rules, such as limiting your product comparisons to just 3 top-rated brands before buying. You can automate your daily life by establishing fixed routines for low-stakes decisions, like eating the same breakfast or wearing a simple wardrobe, which preserves your valuable willpower for major life choices. When you are making a major purchase, write down your mandatory criteria on a physical piece of paper and commit to buying the very first item that checks those boxes without looking back. Remember that when you say yes to a curated, limited life, you are not missing out, but instead, you are actively protecting your mind from the exhausting tyranny of infinite, meaningless alternatives. So let us pull this all together right now, because the secret to modern survival is not about gathering more options, but rather about learning how to ruthlessly eliminate them from your environment. We learn from the famous Draeger's market jam study that an overabundance of options acts as a visual magnet, but ultimately triggers severe behavioral paralysis, dropping purchase rates by 10 times. We uncovered how opportunity cost and loss aversion force your brain to experience every single unchosen alternative as a painful personal loss, which completely destroys your post-purchase satisfaction. We exposed how giant corporations intentionally manipulate this cognitive baseline to capture your attention, and how choice overload inflates your personal expectations to an impossibly high standard of perfection. Finally, we unlocked the critical distinction between the miserable world of the perfection-seeking maximizer and the peaceful, high-retention lifestyle of the boundary-setting Satisficer who values time over options. This one core insight changed how I think about everything I buy, how I structure my career, and how I protect my mental health in a noisy world that constantly demands my attention. Share this video with one person you know who deserves to understand this psychological trap, because one single conversation about choice overload could permanently alter how they see their money and themselves. When you help someone else see through the illusion of infinite options, you are giving them the ultimate gift of clarity, modern peace, and true behavioral freedom in a consumer world. If you want to continue mastering the hidden forces that drive your mind and your money, make sure to hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell right now. Thank you for watching this deep psychological breakdown. Stay grounded, set your personal boundaries, and I will see you in the very next concept reveal video.